Hello and welcome to the Indie Dev Podcast. I'm your host, David Voiles. This week is a bit different. I've got my coworker in Washington, D.C., Shahed Chowdhuri, on the show, along with two other, I don't want to say developers, but we'll say people who have absolutely worked in the games industry. Pek Pongpaet, along with Daniel Pesina. Shahed and Dan grew up together, or Shahed and Pek grew up together, and Pek met Daniel while studying at his Wushu studio. Daniel played Johnny Cage, as well as several other ninjas, including Sub-Zero, Scorpio, Reptile, Smoke, and Noob Saibot in several Mortal Kombat games. And Pek has also worked in 6 Mortal Kombat games spanning 10 years. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this week.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So we have got quite a bit to cover. I don't know if you want to start from left to right. So as it appears on Skype, Pek, why don't you start 1 minute into your story, how you got started, and then move on to Dan and Shahed, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. I grew up watching, Jackie Chan, Jet Li movies, Hong Kong action movies. So I've always wanted to study martial arts, but my parents never, while I was young, they really did not encourage that. So when I got my first job, graduated from college and got my first job, the first thing I did was look for a kung fu school. And lo and behold, very close to where I lived, Daniel Pesina had his Wushu school very close by. So I joined, and the rest is history. I got to study Wushu under Daniel for over 10 years, and then that led to opportunities in the Mortal Kombat video games. So which was the motion capture. I did motion capture for Mortal Kombat 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then Shaolin Monks. That's 6 games spanning 10 years.
Holy cow. Well, so you got some experience going over all this. And we'll get into very shortly what you're doing now as well, because it is very different from how you started with Mortal Kombat, right?
Right.
So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But Daniel, why don't you introduce us to who you are and what your background is as well?
I was played Dungeons and Dragons with the creator of Mortal Kombat, John Tobias. And he called me up. He called me up and he's like, "Hey, will you help me pitch a game to my boss?" Mm-hmm. And so he had this idea where he wanted to film a bunch of action and some characters and film it, and then he was going to take it to his boss. Later on, I would find out that his boss was Ed Boon, and Ed Boon would take it to the upper management, to see if they wanted to go ahead with this game. And the whole premise was this game, first fighting game we ever did with live characters, recognizable characters, I guess. And also we were going to only make 200 video cabinets, for the old arcade.
So much for that, huh?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I guess, around 1992, right?
So I grew up halfway around the world in Bangladesh, and growing up in school, I had never seen anything like Mortal Kombat. We'd played Street Fighter in the arcades. So you can imagine the kind of influence that your team has had, and you yourself. Seeing Mortal Kombat for the first time, playing in arcades, playing the home console, it just blew our minds. And at that point, we heard a lot about in the Western world how kids were not allowed to play it because it was too ultra-violent, realistic.
Right.
Back in the East, no one said anything like that. We just played whatever we wanted. So we had a great time.
Yeah.
Holy cow! I'm kind of in awe of who we're even talking to today. This is awesome. One of my goals when I started this podcast several years ago was to try to talk about the history of games and how people got involved and what it was like to create a lot of these things, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the fact that I can have both of you on and get a lot of the behind the scenes here is incredible. So Shahed, real quick, why don't you give us a story of who you are, how you're tied into all of this as well?
Sure. So I lived in a bunch of countries growing up. Again, we already covered that. I met Pek when I was younger. This was back in Bangkok. But I mostly grew up in Bangladesh, where I was first introduced to Mortal Kombat. And then after coming to the U.S., I worked in the software industry for many years, but also have taken martial arts and played video games. And I have just loved video games that involve martial arts in them. I've been a big fan. And then now that I work for Microsoft, Dave, as you and I work on the same team in different parts of the country. You in Philly and me in D.C. So it's always a great opportunity to not only talk to people who are working in the video games industry as developers, but also in other aspects of video games.
Awesome. Yeah, so we all have very different backgrounds. Interesting to see how everyone kind of got tied in together over here. So, Pek, going back to you, you studied Wushu. Were there other types of martial arts that you got into? And then from studying this, how did you get into motion capture and games as well?
Sure. I'm actually a purist. I had no martial arts background prior to studying Wushu, and I didn't study anything else. I really enjoyed Wushu, so I would say I got deep, rather than exploring other arts, I got deep into Wushu. I studied lots of weapons under Daniel.
Okay.
This culminated into me learning broadsword. My specialties were broadsword and staff, but I did learn straight sword, three-section staff, chain whip, double-handed broadsword, double-handed straight sword, two double broadswords, rope dart, anything you name it. Daniel taught, and I soaked it all up. I did regional competitions in the Midwest. That's where we were. That culminated in the mid-2000. Daniel took us to. We were invited to a tournament in China. This was Wu Bin. Wu Bin was Jet Li's coach. Wu Bin's international tournament. I competed in there and won silver and bronze in my 2 events, which was pretty good. But at some point, I got pretty good at what I did. And then that kind of coincided around the time that Mortal Kombat, the video game, was looking into motion capture. Because like the first few weren't motion capture; they were green screened.
Right. So it was actually they were grabbing the live image of people on screen. Yeah.
Right. As
opposed to motion capture. Explain what this is.
Yeah. So motion capture is when you wear a really dark suit with these sensors, these dots that get picked up by infrared cameras.
Yep.
These reflective dots. And what they do is the cameras around them digitize those motions of the dots, and you can map those dots movements to 3D characters. So they were just getting into that with Mortal Kombat 5. That was a new game, and then by that time they were looking for motion capture talent. And Daniel heard about the opportunity, and he said, "Pek, you should go try out for. I hear they're looking for this." So you should go try out for this. So Daniel's brother, Carlos Pesina, to this day still works at Mortal Kombat. The Realms, Warner Brothers Studios. So he was the original Raiden in the Mortal Kombat video game. So Raiden and Sub-Zero are brothers essentially.
Wow. And I bet most people had no idea that any of this was actually happening either.
Yeah. So I was told about the opportunity, so I went into the NetherRealm Studios, Midway Games at the time.
Yes.
And I auditioned.
This is in Chicago?
This is in Chicago, so I auditioned just like everybody else. I performed some stuff in front of Ed Boon and his team. And this was very early 2000, and they liked what they saw, so I was invited to be part of the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, which was Mortal Kombat 5 at the time. And after that, they called me in every year after that until, whenever they needed me.
Yep. Awesome. That's
the gist.
So is that, so Daniel, is that far different from what you were doing maybe 10 or 15 years prior? Or actually, I guess 10 years, so 92, they're probably shooting Mortal Kombat 1, correct?
Actually, November 18th, 1989 is the first day.
Holy cow.
First day I showed up to shoot officially Mortal Kombat. As I said, we started with the pitch, so we filmed some of our action and we pitched it to the game, and then Ed took it to the owners, and the owners decided to put like Van Damme into the game. Yeah. So that actually collapsed. And then they canceled the game. But then John, like back then, he's like, my friends came out to film. I have all these characters that I've worked on. I already worked on the story characters. Please let me do the original project, the 200 games. Let's do 200 games. And so Ed was like, okay, well, try some of it and let's see how it goes. So November 18th, 1989, I showed up, and
you have an incredible memory.
Naturally, it's like history.
Yeah.
Not memory for everything, but and I only
selective.
Remember that because it's 3 days after my brother's birthday.
I was going to say it's 1 month before my birthday, so I would have been about 3.
Yeah, so we went in and actually the place where we shot was actually not a place where you shoot stuff. It was a storage room. So about the first 2 hours, we cleaned out all the empty desks and empty things that they had from the office in there. Mm-hmm. And then John went around and actually got lights from desks because we didn't have any lighting in there besides the fluorescent bulbs up ahead. Yep. So it was a little bit, it was very barbaric. There was at the beginning there was the creative process was 4 strokes. First stroke, do something. Second idea, oh, I like that. Let's do it like this.
Right.
Third way, hey, Daniel, can you think of something cool to do for this? And fourth way, we happened to be goofing around because it was just John and I, or John and like my brother, or John and Richard Divizio filming at the time. So we would always be goofing off. So he would be like, oh, that's cool. Let's put that in the game. And so that's how basically it started.
So just kind of like riffing this, making it happen, going along, seeing what worked.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And to think how different the budgets are today, like Pek, with your work, and especially as of late, is it more, we'll say, managed because of the time and the costs associated with it and things like that?
Yeah, by the time I got into it, budgets definitely felt like they were getting bigger and bigger all the time. If you look at games today, like Halo, like the AAA titles, they're like movie budget, right?
Right.
But when we started, Mortal Kombat 5, I would say was still pretty small. The mocap, the core mocap team was literally maybe like 3 people. It was like Kevin, Carlos, and I did most of the work, I would say.
Oh, so wow.
Like 3 people did the mocap for Mortal Kombat 5. And then as we did more games, like the budget got bigger and more people got involved. By the time let's say Mortal Kombat 10 came along, maybe there were like at least 12 people involved in mocap,
Okay.
So as the series grew, like budgets got bigger and they were able to do more and get more people involved, which was good because, I think you have more variety. Like I could always tell when I did the mocap, like if you played a character, I could tell you that, that kind of moves like me. And people who like go to our school and, our friends who studied the martial arts with us, they could think that, this guy, this character moved like me. So the more people involved, I think, the more unique the styles and the movement.
So we talked about the different budgets, how you started small, but now budgets are getting bigger. But lately, there's been a resurgence of a lot of independent developers and small teams working on different games. Is this kind of motion capture within their reach, or is it only in the hands of big-name developers these days? Can small groups build games the way you did back in the day?
Well, I think there is a lot of indie games. So just a little bit background. I have an indie games company myself now. We just started in October last year. It's called Happy Owl. So you can find some of our games in the iTunes and the Google Play Store. We don't do 3D just yet, but, lots of indie game companies are starting to do, have done 3D in Unity. I don't know if motion capture is practical yet. In terms of for a small indie studio, like a really small developer studio, but hand animate, there's tools now that will hand animate stuff that you can get pretty nice stuff. People, if you're a digital artist or a 3D modeler and, motion guy, you could probably hand animate some with these modern tools. And also there's a lot more libraries out there, like motion capture libraries that people sell. There's these marketplaces that sell motion, pre-canned motion and attacks and movements, running, like any kind of animation you can think of. I'm sure you can find a market, within the marketplace of motion capture stuff that you can buy that. So I would say yes, it is within their grasp of game developers these days.
Well, bringing it all together, I mean, you just mentioned Unity. So Unity has a great asset store where people can sell different components, graphics, game templates, and so on. But yeah, if you guys were to maybe capture your own motion and freelance yourself into the Unity asset store, imagine, you could just literally make money in your sleep. while people are downloading your motion capture, putting it into other video games.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's a really good idea. But to let you know how far it came, when we shot Mortal Kombat, sometimes John would say, "Hey, I have to check with my dad to see if I could use his camera." so yeah, I was like, "Okay, when are we gonna film?" Well, I gotta check. I gotta make sure we get studio time, but I gotta ask my dad if I can use the camera. So it was really, it has come along.
Yeah, and absolutely, because I mean now it's like multi-million-dollar budgets, and back then, you were perhaps not the first, but definitely one of the first to use live motion capture for games. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't think of it off the top of my head. We're actually catching like the full motion video along with the capture, so similar to rotoscoping. But I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on what you're doing. Digitize, yes. Digitized Sprites is exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, actually, that is not how we originally were going to have it. We were going to have like the video footage as close to as we can, but it was taking up too much memory. And then one of the programmers from Midway, I forget his name now, stayed up for like 3 days, and he was like, he made a computer, because at that time there was no program that could digitize stuff. So he made a computer and then made the program also and put that together to actually digitize us. And he said he stayed up. I think for 3 days. He's like, I was on caffeine for like 2 whole days.
Just like get this thing out the door.
Right.
Yeah, because shortly after this, like I collect all these old full motion video games. I don't know why, but shortly after this, probably 2 years later, there was a studio called Digital Pictures who created games on 32X, Sega CD, 3DO, and they actually had a game called Supreme Warrior. And Supreme Warrior is from the first-person perspective, so the camera is essentially attached to your head, and you're fighting all these martial artists throughout Hong Kong is where they shot it in '94. So it's awesome to see how they kind of took this idea that you were building on initially, and they kind of went through with the whole thing. It's not put together very well. It's very professionally shot. Gameplay is somewhat lacking, but it's called Supreme Warrior. Very interesting to watch in real time. Basically, how are you going to make a movie into a fighting game?
Yeah, that could be a little different.
Yeah. So are both of you still practicing martial arts at this point?
Beg your pardon?
Daniel still has a school. He's still practicing.
So you're both still actively practicing?
Yeah, I still practice and teach 5 days a week. Actually, we're doing this interview today. Tomorrow I go to Massachusetts and teach some seminars out in Massachusetts.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I actually saw an image of that on your Twitter feed just before this. Like a shot of Scorpion. Yeah, Scorpion and you. Also, what I wanted to ask was, like, there's a picture of you dressed as Johnny Cage here, and I'm noticing you're kind of doing this little flying move where you're sitting on like wooden steps. So is that often how they would capture motion or digitized animation back then? Like they kind of held you up some way?
What happened was the original process was we would, because the camera was only like a regular 8. It wasn't a high 8 regular 8, and John was really afraid that the footage would come out blurry. So all the movements had to be done really slow. So all the kicks and punches are actually done very, very slow. So you'd have to actually hold your foot up in the air for a little bit of time. Ah,
okay. So make sure you caught the frame and caught it clearly.
Yeah. So we were getting to the jump kicks, and I'm doing the jump kick, and it's a concrete floor, and I'm wearing these like thin slippers, and I'm on the 20th kick, and again, they're not really paying me much, and doing this as a favor, and I just looked at I'm doing this over and over, and I'm getting this look on my face, and then John looks at me and goes, "Dude, can you jump slower?" And I looked at him, and I was like kind of mad, but then I saw across the way that there was some stairs from a different video game. And I was like, "Hey, I don't know if you can do this, but can I sit on the stairs and act like you could like film me jumping and then cut on the stairs like I'm throwing a kick?" Right. And John was like, "Oh, we could do that." And so that's how that process of using the stairs, because otherwise I would have to jump in slow motion, which was like kind of physically impossible.
Right, like, I can only do so much with gravity, right?
Yeah. And two, you couldn't jump higher because then your head would be out of the frame.
Yeah.
And two, if you jumped a little bit away, your body would shrink because it's only two-dimensional. So we experimented a lot with film then. Actually, I would say the first 16 or 20 hours of the original footage was erased to save money. Because
my goodness.
We would film over whatever we filmed last time. So
my God.
Use stuff and then be like, well, we got a low budget. Let's just film over it. Okay.
And that's the kind of stuff that people would love to see today, right? It's kind of like lost in the making of.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could retrieve that somehow. You just found maybe an unused tape just lying around.
I have about 5 original footage.
But, that's awesome.
But the first one to actually to go and to do Mortal Kombat was Johnny Cage. He's like the father of all the characters. So originally, I would say I did about maybe 18 hours worth of footage that is gone now. That we did to kind of cycle through moves, see what would work, see kind of like, oh, let's do this. Oh, we can't use that because we forgot to mark where we were the last time. So now
let's do it again.
You're taller than before, so now we got to do it again.
Oh my goodness. Well, would you ever have the ability to like share any of this footage with the public, or because I know sometimes studios are kind of concerned they do or don't allow.
No. They have some control issues.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the way like the not media but studios work that way. I understand.
Yeah.
So what was interesting?
We can talk about it.
Yeah, I just came back from the Museum of Still Image in New York. It's in Astoria, Queens, and they have an exhibit going on right now. It's about classic arcade games. So this museum, if you're not aware, it's about $15 to get in. It's fantastic, and what they do is they take they really in-depth looks at film. So 2001 Space Odyssey, they grab the actual notebooks of the directors and the producers and all of their telegrams going back and forth between London and LA. So it's amazing to see how deep they get. One of the games they were highlighting was Mortal Kombat as part of this historic museum. So would either of you had ever have guessed that this franchise would get this big at this point, where people around the world are aware of it, and it's in museums held up as classics?
Yeah, as far as I would never thought of it, but in September I go to South America to do like 3 gaming events. That's how big it is. Like it's like
wow,
yeah, you're invited to come to South America to do a gaming event, a cosplay event, and a comic event.
Wow.
Well,
yeah. So you're
I gotta
active.
ask, if you're doing cosplay, who are you gonna dress as?
Very good question.
I actually my favorite character is Raiden.
All right.
So dress as Raiden, because otherwise, if I dress like Scorpion or Sub-Zero or Johnny Cage, it's actually me. Because I did too. When we were filming, they had no like personality or anything like that. We were allowed to do our own whatever personality in during the filming, and then they would take that and they would add it into like a story.
Right.
So the story, the basic story was there, but not really how the characters mingled or what they're really how the relationship wasn't until we started filming. Because
The question for Pek then, who are you going to dress as if Daniel takes Raiden?
Raiden?
Yeah.
I'm a Sub-Zero. I think my second choice would be Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Reptile all the way.
Yeah.
So you're both... Well, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So well, by the time I joined Mortal Kombat, it was already a big franchise, and Daniel and everybody else were pretty well known in the industry. And I would say, the much of the recognition when I say I was involved in the Mortal Kombat series is, they harken back to Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, right? Like those were the favorites and the classics. So that's kind of what I came to is from that legacy.
It's about the halfway point of where we are now. So you're both obviously still active in what you're doing with martial arts. What are you doing now, both professionally and personally, that you'd like to share? So what keeps you busy at night?
Pek never sleeps.
I guess not. On the road now too.
Yeah, I have a software services company. I've been involved in tech. My degree is in engineering, and I've been involved in tech for almost 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a software development company, and we do software services. So that's not very interesting.
Impeccable.
But impeccable. Yes, that's right. We're almost 30 people now. We have like 10 Fortune 500 clients like Google, Motorola, HP, Kohl's, stuff like that. But more recently, I started another company as well, and this is very interesting to your audience because it's an indie game company. It's called Happy Owl, and we make casual games, casual mobile games. I've always been interested in games, and this was something that I think between I had found the right team of graphic artists and game designers. The technology. So we use a platform similar to Unity. We use Unity as well, but we also use something called BuildBox, which is a 2D game platform. So we make games at a pace of a game a week. We don't launch them at a game a week, but we make a game a week. Mostly cutesy characters, kind of like Angry Birds or Flappy Bird style characters, very casual games.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
In the background right now, I have Galaxy Boost playing, so people get an idea of what's going on.
Awesome, yeah, and we just released CubeMan and Bouncy Cloud. CubeMan, it's kind of it's a 3D isometric, very simple. Our game, the goal is to make them very approachable. Usually most of our games you can play with a thumb, And then we're also thinking of bigger games, kind of like Badlands or Leo's Fortune. So that's coming, sort of a bigger game. Obviously that can't take less than a week, so that one we're investing a bit more time and energy in, but that's coming too. So it's sort of a bigger platform game, and I'm very excited too.
So you're trying to see what works, what doesn't work, get things out the door, and just keep iterating on what you're building quickly.
Correct. Yes. It's the fail fast, experiment fast, and learn fast.
Okay. And Daniel, same for you?
That is Pek's life. Fast.
Go.
I teach martial arts. Again, I was contacted more because of my martial art ability for the game, and John wanted to make it authentic. So, a lot of people are asked, where have I been for the last, Mortal Kombat's like 25 years old.
Yeah.
Where have I been for the last 25 years? And I tell them I've been becoming a master of martial arts, like an old school master of martial arts. So, doing martial arts, doing some conventions, actually, if I get invited or things like that. As far as projects, any little project comes my way, I'll think about it. Maybe working on I am at liberty to say maybe working on a new game, a different game, but
Okay.
Yeah, just enjoying life, man.
Yeah. And what got either of you interested in martial arts in the first place? And also, is there something greater that you think others can take away? I mean, other than just like the fitness, but as a developer, what else can I take away from martial arts? Am I learning, like productivity or focus? Like, what are the benefits you think are available from it?
And if you ever watch the movie Shaolin Soccer, you will realize.
I have seen parts of that.
Yeah, traditional martial art is good for anything. Good for whether you're a developer or golfer or anything like that. It really is. But it is now in our day and age, it's truly hard to find a master of martial arts. Right now, sorry, I'm going to be babbling, but right now, they say you're a martial art master if you know all the techniques in a system. While old school martial art master is like my master looked at me and says, "Wow, you're connected." I mean, I have like a mind-body connection, and you can tell just from looking at me that I had that. Like this, it's more like looking at somebody and understanding, like, wow, your structure is perfect. Every time you move an eighth of an inch, your structure is perfect. So that's what kind of like I've been doing. So it could be more like a moving yoga, I guess.
It's like very well coordinated the entire time.
Yeah, you can learn because how the human body can do anything, and the human mind can accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm. And this has helped you focus along the way.
Yes.
And same for you, Pek? Like what sparked your interest?
Well, what sparked my interest was, growing up watching kung fu movies, like Jackie Chan and and then a lot of the wuxia, like kung fu series novels and stuff like that growing up. So I grew up watching all of those, mostly translated in Thai. And then later on the Jet Li movies. So my appeal, with many martial arts, there's really two tracks. There's like the forms aspect and then the sparring aspect. I really didn't enjoy sparring. I didn't like hitting people, and more so I didn't like getting hit as well. But I really enjoy the performance aspect, the discipline aspect. I think what the takeaway from martial arts and working with Daniel and studying under him is the discipline, the respect you learn, the hard work. There's a Chinese saying is you have to taste the bitter before you taste the sweet. So nothing worth earning comes easy, and you have to go through the bitterness of the hard work before you earn. Everybody wants the easy road. They want they expect success to come easy. I think,
They thought, I put in some time, I'm going to get success.
Right. No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. Exactly. And what that has taught me is, when people ask how I've gotten this far, my company, we have almost 30 people now, started from nothing, self-funded and all that, and we have some great clients. Like, people wonder, like, well, it's just a lot of it is not sexy, not glamorous. It's just grinding hard work. That's what Wushu is. This is what martial arts is. It's training for 2 minutes of competition, right?
Right.
So, but that's, if all you focus on is the competition, and that's all you see is like, wow, he's so good in 2 minutes. But it took years to get that 2 minutes to be really good. Right.
Well, they just assume, you know, you're a natural. You're born with it. When clearly that isn't the case.
Maybe it's Maybelline, but maybe it's just hard work.
And at first I was initially confused to what Wushu was, but I threw in Wushu demonstration in YouTube, and one of the first videos that appears is these two women. One's in a white, I guess you'd call it a gi, I'm not quite sure, and then someone else is in a purple outfit, and they have a spear, and they're like battling back and forth. And I saw this on Facebook some time ago and was absolutely blown away at not only how athletic the two of them were, but also the amount of trust, because they're both thrusting a spear in each other's face. But it's like a very well-coordinated dance, right? Where it appears one person seems to know if the spear is going to go here, I've got to turn my head the other way. So it's amazing to see two people move not only so athletically and quick, but also have that much trust in another person too.
Yeah, that's just years of repetition and choreography. Yeah, like that's what's called a set form. So it's performed with one or two or more people, and that's a choreographed performance. And to play with live weapons like that, it's just repeat over and over and over.
Holy cow. Yeah, this is pretty incredible. So I don't want to keep you guys too long. So Shahed, do you have any questions before we start to wrap things up over here?
No, I just want to add a quick comment. So I'm nowhere near martial arts master as any of these guys. It's definitely not Daniel. But having taken some martial arts classes myself, I got to say the things that you learn just stays with you over the years. Like even today, even if I'm still going to the gym, like the stretches that I learned before fighting or sparring in class, I still do it to this day. So there's so many things you can learn in class, and you're able to do other things. I remember one of my friends who was with me in class, Bob. He is now the captain of the U.S. TA Tennis Championship or Association. So again, starting with one thing can lead you to another. So just as Pek was able to use that discipline to do something else, and Daniel is still running his own business. My friend's like now playing tennis as a captain. Again, lots of different things you can learn out of it. So I definitely agree with everything you guys said.
Awesome. So before we wrap up over here, do the same thing every episode. I have the previous guest ask a question for the next guest who comes on the show. So before we go any further, I would like to get you two on the hook, Pek and Daniel, for last week's question. Now this was from the developers at who created Sashimi, Neon Deity Games. And the question was, and this is very relevant to what our discussion is, if you could bring back any classic video game system, which would it be and why? So essentially make an old system popular again. So this could be something you grew up with or just have a fancy for.
To Daniel, you got?
Well, I'm just gonna have to do the standard Nintendo. I've always loved Nintendo.
Okay.
And it is, and I think it's adaptable. At the beginning, I was gonna say Commodore, but I think that's too limited. It wasn't really as powerful, I think Nintendo is where we peaked out. And sure, you could have better graphics, but the games back then were awesome.
Gameplay is king.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Peck, how about for you?
I would have to say I really love the Dreamcast, and I'm sorry to
Yes.
see that Sega is no longer making consoles, but like Soul Calibur has aged very well in my opinion.
I agree.
I just played it the other day. Kilik, the guy who plays the staff, which is my weapon.
Yep.
One of his, the beginning things, they all do forms. That's a compulsory form that everybody who learns Wushu staff needs to learn. So it's very authentic, and
awesome.
And that's why it needs to be.
Preserved.
Preserved.
All right, I got to commend you for two things there. First of all, I still have my Dreamcast from September 9th, 1999 in its original box and the original Soul Calibur. It doesn't run as well sometimes with the disc has issues, but when I was doing my martial arts, I used a 6-foot staff and I learned those Kilik moves, so I can still do those in real life. So I got to say, Kilik has been my favorite character from Soul Calibur. And I've seen that a lot of the Dreamcast games are available. Even the Sega Genesis games have been available on Xbox 360, now available on the Xbox One through backwards compatibility. So just the other day, I was playing the Dreamcast version of Soul Calibur that was ported to Xbox 360, now running on Xbox One. And that Xbox controller, which I have it right here. Let me grab it.
Here we go. Well, he's not kidding. He's got it right
there
here.
You go. So Xbox One controller, I felt was the closest thing to being a spiritual successor for Dreamcast. All the buttons and sticks are very easy to play all those Dreamcast games. So yeah, even to this day, if I had to pick one, that's what I would pick.
All right. I was actually in New York last weekend doing work, and as I'm walking through Times Square, I see a woman with a Dreamcast launch shirt. Dreamcast, and the date came out 9/9/99. I thought, oh my God, that thing's hung out for 18 years and it's still going well. All right.
I still have mine too.
Okay, so come full circle. Gentlemen, is there anything that you'd like the viewers to know? Like, where can they find you? Best way to reach out, whether it's Twitter or a website. What would you like to point them towards? And then finally, any final notes before we get out of here?
Heck?
For me, I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty much on every social.
Uh-oh, may have lost him.
I think we lost him there.
I think we lost Peck.
So
okay.
Man, fatality.
Yeah. Who's responsible
Guys,
for
are you
this?
still there? Sorry.
There we go.
There you are. We thought we lost you.
Yeah. So my thing is I'm on a lot of the social networks. So Pek Pongpaet on Twitter.
Okay.
Just Pek on Instagram, PEK.
Yep.
And then just Pek at Impeccable on my email if you want to talk business. And then Pek at Appial if you have questions about the games or feedback. I'd love to have your feedback.
And do you want to spell impeccable for those people?
Yeah. It's the correct spelling of impeccable. That's IMPEKABLE.
Naturally.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
and
like your name.
On words. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Daniel, for you.
Yeah, as far as me, I didn't have enough foresight to see that I'd reach over 5,000 people on my Facebook page, but you could reach me on Facebook, Master Daniel Pesina on Facebook. I am Master Pesina on Twitter and Master D Pesina on Instagram. And if you need to talk business, you can also contact me at masterpesina@gmail.com.
Perfect. And Shahed, anything for you?
No, I'm a little starstruck right now. Never thought a little kid from Bangladesh could be sitting here talking to Master Pesina.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I both. And I've got to say, I was in kindergarten when Mortal Kombat came out, and my uncle, I had a Genesis. My uncle bought it the day it came out, brought it to my house, forgot that he left it there. So I got Mortal Kombat on launch day in kindergarten, and that was the first code I ever learned. The blood code was ABACABB. And why that sticks with me 24 years later, I have no idea. So it is very nice to have all of you guys on the show. Thank you very much. And again, if there's anything else you'd like to discuss in the show or come on another point, I would love to have you on. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Dave. Appreciate it for arranging this.
Bye.